Ron is chairman and president and CEO of Hudson Bank Corp. He's won wide acclaim by Forbes magazine, the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, CNN, MSNBC, Jim Cramer, and many other media for his management skills and efficient performance of the bank. Ron and his wife, Chris, who is also with us tonight, have been longtime friends of the Petersons, dating back 30 years ago when they were neighbors in Jamestown. So who better to toast or roast Greg Peterson than Ron Hermance?
Thank you, Stan, and thank all of you for coming tonight and making this such a good evening for the Jackson Center and for our friend Greg. It's nice to be back in Chautauqua County, believe me. And we stopped the rain, in case you're wondering. I want you to look over here because we're going to go through a little anthology here, and I hope many of you had a chance to read the great article that was in the Post-Journal this Sunday, written by Jason Rodriguez, which had a nice history. Jason? Nice history of the Jackson Center, and in particular of our friend Greg Peterson. It called him a source of influence. And I think earlier, when many of the speakers got up here tonight, they talked about all the things that Greg had done and how much he meant to the community. And these, as you look over here, are just three of the groups that have known Greg as a source of influence. We'd probably also call him a stem winder and a backbone, to put it mildly. The Community Foundation, as an example, is one of the people that felt Greg's influence the most. As a board member, he spent 10 years from 84 to 94 with the Community Foundation. The last 5 of those years, he was president. And I'm sorry that the statistics are a little low, but I will read them for you so you can understand what Greg helped do. I think if you asked him personally if he was a sphere of influence for the Community Foundation, he'd deny it. He'd give everybody else credit, but statistics speak for themselves. The number of charitable funds went from 39 to 192 in 10 years. The total assets went from $1.7 million to $17.4 million. And most importantly, the cumulative grants and scholarships went from $344,000 to $5.9 million. Many of you here can relate to how Tom and I have something in common here, how we all became part of Greg Peterson's master plan. I remember walking down the street, seeing Greg, and wondering what plan he had in mind for me that day. And being greeted like this: "Hey, I was just thinking about you." And then the plan would unfold. Or, if you decided to go on the offensive by expressing some idea about XYZ organization in which you were both involved, you would hear, "Great idea, you're chairman." It's part of the reason my wife and I left Jamestown, by the way. This summer, I spoke with Cindy Peterson, who didn't get enough of the accolades because she's the true chairman tonight, ladies and gentlemen. She had some interesting things to tell me, and I'll tell you about them in a second. As you know, Greg has a voracious interest in history, those that had a significant part in history, and loves to relive and chronicle those experiences, and in most cases shares them on YouTube. For instance, the Sandra Day O'Connor interview, also Walter Cronkite, Hillary Clinton as well. When I spoke with Cindy this summer, I said to her, "Now, what is it that gets Greg going about these historic figures?" And she said to me something that I don't know how many of you have ever heard this story before. But she said, "He gets so deeply involved that sometimes I think he believes he is that person." and that he sometimes morphs into that individual. Now, that's a little different side of Greg than I've known. I don't know about you folks, but so I started to explore that a little bit. And if you'll bear with me, you take a look at this pose and you wonder what he's thinking. Well, does he just admire Larry King and the way he interviews? Or does he think he is Larry King? Is he just an authority on the Nuremberg trials? Or does he think he was there? Does he admire the work Sam Ervin, Howard Baker, and the Watergate Committee did? Or does he think he was a member of the committee? I only got a couple more of these, bear with me. Is he just a student of the Lunar Exploration Program? Or was he actually on the moon? Is he just a huge baseball fan and supporter of the Jammers, or is he really a legend in his own mind? Well, since we've explored his capacity to dream, and even better for all of us, to make dreams happen, let me share our dream for you, Mr. Peterson, for your future. It starts with a swearing-in ceremony and is memorialized in a group picture. Greg, if you'd come up here, please. Now, for all of you purists, you probably know there's only 9 Supreme Court judges, and you're already counting, and there's 10 there, all right? But here's the reason there's 10. Our most recent appointee has announced that she's going to recuse herself from the first 50% of the cases, so we need Greg as a tiebreaker. Well, here's your very own memento from this evening. And I promise to hand over the Peterson tapes and not to put them on YouTube yet. Here you go, Mr.
Thank you so much.
As long as we're making presentations, if Greg and Cindy would come up, we have a very special presentation to make to them. I understand. It's hard for me to believe, but come on up. But that they do not have one of the few portraits of Robert H. Jackson, and so we'd like to present that to the Petersons right now.